The all new Mayhem mode is here with new heroes and changes. It's more wacky, weird and broken. Stay tuned to know everything before it arrives on the original server. Hi guys, Kazuki here, and in this video I am here to show you everything new and coming to the new Mayhem mode. We are going to be starting this list off in alphabetical order, since there are a lot of heroes that we are going to look into today. First up is Aldous, and Aldous doesn't really have that many major changes. The only changes he has received are that the amount of sticks gained per minion is increased, and his ultimate is now super fast to get from one place to another. Moving on, next we have Alucard. Alucard also has received some nice changes. His ultimate now stuns the enemies and the lifesteal ratio is increased during the ultimate. The unkillable Alucard is super fun. Next, let's check out Akai. Akai's second skill range has been increased and the second skill also now stuns whenever you land it. Next up we have Angela. Angela's first skill now has a reduced cooldown and charges faster, making it harder to miss. You can keep spamming it, leading to continuous healing. Up next is Arlott. Arlott has been given a nice change. The passive mark cooldown has been reduced by a lot, and the ultimate cooldown has been reduced significantly. Let's move on to Balearic next. Balearic now has his passive enhanced. It charges so much faster and is so much more annoying to go up against. Up next is Chao. Everyone's favorite freestyle king now gets a longer kickback range, and the first skill also now has a reduced cooldown. He's going to be super fun to play from now. Moving on to Clint. Clint also has received a nice buff. He can now stack up to 8 bullets, and the bullet stacking rate has also been increased significantly, making him incredible fun to play. Up next is Cyclops. Cyclops is amazing. His second skill now spawns more balls and it also increases his movement speed, which means you can keep spamming his skill, and he basically has no cooldown on his skills thanks to his passive. Let's move on to Estes. Here is an exciting one. His passive now fills up faster, and his second skill cooldown has been reduced by a lot. So now you can spam your skills and basic attacks. Let's move on to someone really exciting, Franco. Franco's hook range has been increased by a lot, and the cooldown on his hook has also been reduced significantly. Hooking enemies from a mile away feels really good, not gonna lie. We have another tank next, which is Gadotkacha. Gadotkacha has received a crazy buff. His passive now regens faster, allowing you to bonk your enemies at a crazy rate. Moving on to Gourd. Gourd has received an amazing change. Whenever you trigger his passive, you stun the enemies. This one is a nice change, and I want this change to actually be implemented for the regular Gourd. Up next is Gushan. Gushan has a nice little buff. His passive stakes have now been doubled, and his ultimate also has a reduced cooldown. It's just more regen and damage for our boy. Let's move on to Hanabi. Hanabi hasn't received anything major. Just her bounce damage has been increased, and her skill 1 damage to shield conversion ratio has been improved. Up next is Harley. Harley has received a nice change. He now throws 5 waves of card instead of 3, making it easier to land and deal more damage, which should just help you delete your enemies faster. Moving on to Hayabusa. Hayabusa has received a nice little change. His ultimate now deals more damage per mark, and his second skill now has a reduced cooldown so that you can land those marks to maximize damage. Let's check out Irithel. Irithel's passive in Mayhem recharges faster. This means you can spam her enhanced basic attack endlessly if you move around a lot. Up next is Jawhead. Jawhead now has gotten more missiles in Mayhem mode, and his ultimate has a crazy long range that you can use to lock onto your enemies, which means nobody is going to be able to run away from this menace. Let's move on to Julian. His change is not really that exciting. All the cooldown on his skills have been reduced by a lot, which means you can keep spamming them. Nothing unique here, just endless spamming. Moving on to Carrie. Here is a unique one. When in her ultimate, her basic attacks bounce. Yes, her basic attacks bounce like Hanabi's. How cool is that? Up next is Lancelot. He also has a very nice change. The skill 1 cooldown now resets when you hit any target, which means you can basically do unlimited dashes as long as you hit one enemy. And yes, the enemy can already be marked too. Moving on to Lapu Lapu. This one is nothing major. Whenever you use his ultimate, you can knock your enemies up when you land. And his ultimate has a lower cooldown. Honestly, this should just be his regular skill. Up next is Leslie. She is an interesting change. Her passive now recharges faster, which means you can use 4 bullets, dealing massive amounts of true damage. Up next is Lucas. Lucas has an interesting change. His passive now regenerates extremely fast, and he can keep spamming his ultimate and deal so much damage and crowd control extremely quickly. Up next is Minotaur. He has a nice change, not too overpowered. The number of knockups in his ultimate has been increased by a lot, and its cooldown has also been reduced. Let's move on to Moscow. The range of all his skills has been increased. Yes, his first skill, second skill, and even his teleportation on his ultimate now have longer ranges. A good change, not gonna lie. Up next is Nathan. It's a pretty simple change. Now his basic attacks also fill his passive, which means you can be incredibly fast and deal a lot of damage to win games easily. Let's move on to the second most annoying hero in Mayhem mode, Nana. Nana has received a very annoying change. Her second skill now spawns multiple Molinas, and her ultimate travel distance has been increased by a lot. God, she is so annoying to go up against. Moving on to Nolan. His change is just broken, his passive bar has been increased, and now you gain back more energy per rift shattered. Additionally, you gain HP and a shield back, making him super overpowered and tanky. Up next is Odette. Her passive bounces now immobilize her enemies, so each little bounce will immobilize enemies. This in turn makes it easier to catch and land attacks on them. Let's move on to Farsa. Farsa is getting a nice change. She now launches 3 flying projectiles, and her ultimate cooldown is also reduced, so you can keep landing this broken thing over and over. Moving on to Phobius. He has received a nice set of changes. Phobius' passive recharges faster, making it easier to land his ultimate. His ultimate also stuns now, making Phobius the ultimate stun machine. Let's move on to Saber now. He is probably the third most annoying hero in Mayhem mode, because he will just straight up kill you with his new 7 blades. Yes, he now gets 7 blades, which you can use to kill almost any squishy hero you are up against. Up next is Sylvana. She now gets control immunity when you use her second skill. She also gets more hits on her second skill, making her really good. Again, Moontoon, give us the same change on the original server Sylvana too. It's not too broken and she really needs a buff right now. Let's move on to Suyu. Suyu hasn't really received any major changes. The cooldown of all his skills has been reduced, making him really exciting and easy to play. Let's move on to Terizla. He also gets a nice change. His second skill now stuns on the third hit, and his passive sustain has been increased by a lot, making him incredibly tanky. Up next is Vale. Vale has received a broken change. His ultimate now executes enemies when they are at 20% HP, just like the old Sky Piercer with full stakes. Moving on, we have Vexana. Vexana's ultimate now gets cast faster, and its cooldown has been decreased. She's also really annoying to go up against, but we can manage somehow. Finally, we have the most annoying hero in Mayhem, Zoshin. Zoshin's passive staking rate has been buffed by a lot, which just makes her super annoying to go up against. She stacks up so fast and will just left you and throw you. Man, I hate going up against her. So guys, what do you think? Are you excited about the new Mayhem mod? Which hero did you like the most? Comment all your answers below. So that will be all for this video. Thank you guys for watching and keep supporting Kazuki Official.